Good morning again, Bio20. So here's our last video on the lymphatic system and immunity, and this is just going to be a short little one. And so I'm just going down to where we finished off last day. So we talked about these different types of white blood cells, B cells that produce antibodies, the helper Ts, and you see why they're called B cells. Well, they're B cells because they're coming from your bone marrow, and these are the ones that are producing the antibodies. And those antibodies are specific to a particular antigen. Helper Ts. Why is it called helper Ts? Well, T cells are from the thymus gland, a gland in your chest. And again, what do? Well, don't just say they call for help. Who do they call? They call the B cells and they call the killer T cells. B cells arrive, they make antibodies against that invader antigen. What do the killer T cells do? Well, they're our search and destroy. They're our assassins from our Your Magic Doctor video. They puncture the cell membrane, and if your host, your body cells have been infected, they actually destroy the cells. Suppressor Ts, forgot to mention those in the last video. These guys were the referee. They call off the immune system response. And finally, the brain, the memory T cells, are going to remember the antigen invader for the next time. Next time your body is exposed to the same particular invader, you are going to produce your antibodies much more quickly. So this little graph shows exactly what happens. The first time that you're exposed to a particular invader pathogen, it takes a while for this whole process, the helper Ts, the macrophages, the B cells, killer Ts, and for you to start making antibodies by those B cells. That, if you see when here at day 0, if that's when you're first infected, it takes a good 2 weeks before you get a high enough antibody concentration in order to be immune to that. So now let's say many years later, maybe you had the mumps as a kid and you were exposed to it later on as an adult or as a teenager. And so after the second infection, you get this secondary response. And you can see that the second time you're exposed, you have a much faster and larger response. You're making way more antibodies this time against that particular antigen, that invader. And that's what immunity is, being able to produce these antibodies and being able to keep yourself safe from the next time and the next time and the next time that you're exposed to a particular pathogen, an invader, a bacteria, or a virus. Okay, so you guys can read about immunizations. It's quite interesting. Obviously, there's no immunization yet for the coronavirus, COVID-19. They have to make it, and it takes a long time for scientists to get an immunization, a vaccine ready. And so it's going to be months, maybe years before we see a vaccination and immunization against this. So there's some natural immunity. You can read through this. And then, of course, there's the belief that anti-vaxxers out there talk about vaccines not being safe, and that's not true. They are very safe. They do not cause autism. They do not cause ADHD. There were studies that were done that were actually faked by one scientist, and he lost his license because of it. But honestly, vaccination is very important, and hopefully at some point in time we will get a COVID-19 vaccination. So you guys have some questions to do, some short answer questions, some multiple choice here, numerical response. So you guys can finish up that booklet. Make sure you've watched Your Magic Doctor. And if you have any questions or comments, just let me know, michelle.ledeen@ghsd75.ca. Talk to you later. Stay safe.